Yeah, man. Good to go.
We are good to go.
All right. Are we? I always have to ask now. Are we on? Are we good?
Oh, we're live.
We're on? Okay.
We're live. We're
We
live.
are live.
Welcome.
I still think we need to come up with some kind of theme song, like opening theme song for Unscripted.
I've got like
kind of that you're like Unscripted.
Dun-dun-dun, welcome to Unscripted. Yeah, I've got like 30 drafts that you and I can just kind of work through. They're just sitting on my Mac right now. So.
You've already written like jingles, like a. I'm thinking like sitcom theme song kind of thing.
Oh yeah. There's some synth going on in the back. Okay. Welcome to Unscripted.
Goodness. Hey, how are you guys? Glad to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm sorry I missed out on last week. Glad to be back with you this week. I'm glad that we have such a gifted and talented person like Brandon who can completely carry this thing on his own.
Oh, I can press buttons
at a moment's notice, man. So I appreciate you coming through. That
was a good conversation. Wish you were there because
Yeah.
it was fun being able to go through that together. Because we're talking about heaven and earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2 weeks ago we kind of opened up that topic about how those things were together. Now they're separated.
Right.
So God's intent was, these two separate spaces, but God's dwelling with us, and it's awesome.
Want to bring heaven to earth, have them kind of dwell in the same place.
Yep. And then last week we talked about the fall. So Eve gave all that up for a snack. So
yeah,
it's too bad.
Maybe it's really good fruit though. I mean,
yeah,
it says look good.
Yeah. And she was like, hey,
I don't know. When I've been really hungry, fruit, I guess, has kind of looked good, but I don't know how often I've looked at fruit and gone, oh man.
Oh yeah. I feel that way
about meat.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say like a box of fresh strawberries. I'm like, oh yeah.
See, but if
anybody else,
some ribs,
so there's
burger,
some ribs hanging from this tree, and Eve is like, hey,
some fries. That looks good to me.
I was made from ribs, so like I'll take.
I guess it looks good. Anyway,
well, let us know that you're here because we're continuing.
Absolutely. We're just talking.
Yeah, we're continuing on that topic tonight, and get into it. So let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're at. How your week's
please
been
tell
going.
us hello, good evening. Let us know even where you're watching from. You sitting on the couch? You sitting, I don't know, in a car somewhere waiting on your kids' practice to be done? Are you? I don't know where else.
Coffee shop extraordinaire.
Yes,
that would be me lately
for sure.
It's me.
Okay, let's start out. We kind of we're going to hopefully get some interaction from you guys. Just wanted to ask some questions, some would you rather questions. If you've been part of the class on Tuesday morning, I've done this a couple of times recently and gotten some good feedback from it. And you and I have both, you currently doing youth ministry. Back in my youth ministry days, it's just a fun thing to kind of, pick kids' brains and find out what they're thinking.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So, okay, first question. And we have to be thinking of our answers as well. So
fun.
Yes. First question, would you rather have everything that you eat be too salty, or no matter that it's not salty enough, no matter how much salt you add to it? Would you rather have your food constantly taste too salty, no matter what you do to it, it always tastes too salty, or no matter what you do to it, no matter how much salt you add to it, it's never salty enough? So give us your answer. Put that in the comments. Salty or not salty enough, however you want to answer.
And we'll judge your character by what you say.
That's right.
Either way.
What are you going with?
I'll be honest. My gut reaction was like, you know what? It'd be like too much salt. It'd be like drinking salt water.
Yeah.
If I would like that. Or the alternative of like tasteless mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Like.
Or all you really take, or rice or something like that. Just, there's no flavor to it.
My initial reaction is saying no salt. But then I think thinking through it a little bit more, I wouldn't mind like a fry that is just like covered in salt. I would bear with that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Cade agrees. He says too salty. I'm down for too salty.
I'm with you. I'll take the too salty because I eat food now that's probably too salty. So it wouldn't bother me. That much, but for everything that I taste to not have enough salt in it, that'd be a problem.
I had a professor at Harding, and he like would put pepper in his hand and eat the pepper.
I did. Okay,
I know some people.
I've told some other people about this, but my dad, when we used to go to Hardee's, was his go-to place when I was like in high school and stuff, and we get our meal of fries. He would get like at least 5 of those little cups of ketchup. Because Wendy's has kind of bigger cups. McDonald's and Hardee's had the littler cups. And he would line them up like on his tray with his fries, and he would douse them all in pepper, where you can almost see the ketchup underneath because there's so much pepper on it. And then he would dip a fry in each one. And then just as we're talking and visiting, he would just take one and eat it and then replace it with another one.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, we ain't got time. Anyway, okay, another would you rather. Would you rather travel the world for a year on a shoestring budget or stay in only one country for a year but live in luxury? Now, as you're thinking about your answer, you've been to Europe. You've been to like multiple countries on kind of a shoestring budget.
Yes.
You know, you're kind of limited.
Yeah.
You know, so would you rather travel the world? I mean, you go everywhere, you go anywhere you want, but you're just barely getting by.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're having to sleep in bus stations and kind of scrounge for food kind of thing. Or one country for a year, a whole year, but you live in luxury.
And
which one are you doing?
The world's too big. I'm going quantity over quality. I'm going quantity.
Okay.
So I want to see all of the sites. I don't have to spend. There is one. I was literally traveling through Switzerland. So I stayed in what's the big thing in Switzerland?
The Alps? I don't know.
Maybe it's the one big city. It's like anyway.
Oh.
And probably the reason I don't
Zurich, Geneva? I don't know.
Anyway, it was, I don't remember.
I've named the two cities I know of in Switzerland.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, yeah. So the reason I don't remember is because we didn't even stay 24 hours there. Swiss City? Okay. Yeah, we didn't even stay 24 hours there. Like we slept there. And then we left.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like we're going to another city. But in my mind, I'm like,
did you ever spend any more time there the rest of the trip?
No. But in my mind, like I checked it off. I saw the Swiss Alps.
I was in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I ate gnocchi in one of their little hostels and watched Dead Poet Society. All in less than 24 hours.
You're going to ask questions
about
the ketchup cup from my dad? I got questions. Okay. And I know you well enough to know, like, throw a backpack on.
Oh, I'm down.
You'll go wherever you want.
Yeah. A couple of packets of ramen noodles.
There probably would have been a time when I would have done that, but now I'm like, the luxury.
Okay, so
really
where would it be then?
I don't care. Like, who cares? You've got luxury, man. You can do whatever you want, and just and have the best, like 5-star accommodations, the best meals. Yeah. So anyway,
interesting.
What did anybody answer at all? I don't know if anybody's answered that question. I'd love for you to answer.
Cade's going for luxury too.
Okay,
he's right there with
Cade.
you, and he said that's called heaven. Oh, well. One place in luxury.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey,
seriously.
Welcome
like
welcome to our heaven and earth.
Nice Jesus juke there, Cade.
Right.
Okay. So, okay, we're going to do one more that hopefully might lead us into our discussion for tonight a little bit, continuing to talk about, heaven and earth or heaven meeting earth or heaven being split apart from earth and all those things. Would you rather suddenly be elected senator or suddenly become the CEO of a major company? But when you get the job, you don't know anything more about either one of those things than you currently do right now in this moment.
So you wouldn't be like,
right
yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Somebody walks in and says, Brandon, you're now a U.S. senator. Go to it. Or, Brandon, you're now the CEO of Walmart.
I don't know. They both have so much weight. I guess I would say senator. Just because I'd just be like, hey, like how many people can like do my job for me or something? I don't know. How many aides do I have that can like tell me things? Like, oh yeah, you're the senator. You're supposed to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's more weight as a Walmart guy. What about you?
I think I would lean towards senator just because there would be some other senators where I could get some advice, some influence or something. But the CEO, man, like what if I make the whole thing just tank?
Yeah, that's it. You're done.
And it's my fault. So that would be hard for me.
Senator Marshall.
So just, and think about just like when sometimes you've been put in a position, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, where you're completely unprepared for it. And like, sometimes we avoid those situations as much as possible because we don't want to be there. And then sometimes for some of us, that's things we look forward to. Anybody, what would you prefer? Senator or CEO? Let us know.
Caden's going for senator, part of a team, but also a leader on your own. So it's kind of like you're leading your own parts, but you're also a part of a team. I think that's why I'm leaning towards it too.
It's the fear of failure for me. Yeah. The very public fear of failure.
Because I don't know.
So, okay. As we continue in our discussion, those of you who are jumping on late, maybe salty food, the traveling or the senator and CEO question.
Let us know.
And if you have no idea what any of those questions are, just go ahead and answer in the comments. And like, here's, I don't know what you're talking about, but here, salty.
I guess salty.
So, okay, let's go. You talked last week, about the garden and about that being kind of being this union of heaven and earth, as God's presence here on earth with Adam and Eve is perfection. And then they screwed it all up. And one of the big, problems, I guess one of the things that I think that, especially if we've heard that story a lot, that we tend to overlook is it wasn't just about the sin. It wasn't just about God saying, hey, don't do that. And then they did it.
Yeah.
Because you have this whole discussion in Genesis 3 about the tree of life as well. We don't want them to be in this position and be able to continue to be in this position. And that position would be, I'm trying to make myself like God.
Yeah.
I'm trying to elevate myself instead of allowing God to dictate to me the best for my life. I want to call those shots myself.
Yeah. And ultimately, I mean, that sin, you know, we look at it as like archaic and stuff, like, don't eat the fruit. Oh, I'm going to eat the fruit.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, but that sin is relevant in every single one of our lives, every single day. Of it's the temptation to say, you know, the temptation to decide not to, or to put off your work and to say, you know, I'm going to do this later. And like, you know what? Like, I think that I can do it on my own. I'll do it later. Or just, you know, with a whole bunch of other things in our own lives of just saying, you know what? I know that the Bible says this. I know that I hear this preached every Sunday, but I'm going to see if I can experience it on my own, because there is a part, it's kind of the prodigal son too. I think Dad is holding out on me.
Yeah.
There's something out there that I see that.
So I want to be the one.
Yeah. I want to be the one to take the fruit. I want to be the one that goes and sees, because I think that what God has designed for my good is not actually for my good.
Right.
And that's where the snake gets him and says, did God really say? And you're
right.
like, oh,
but that's also part of the perks that the serpent says, like, you can be in the driver's seat now. You're going to have the same knowledge that God does, instead of kind of walking through life blind. I know it wasn't that bad, but you know, instead of allowing somebody else to call the shots, you get to do that now.
Yeah. And who doesn't want to do that? Who, you know, every single human wants autonomy, or wants to be able to call the shots for themselves. Yeah. I'm in control of my own life. Yeah. I'm in control of my own destiny. I'm the captain of my own ship.
Okay, so I want to remind everybody of that discussion because of what we're getting into tonight, which comes from Genesis chapter 11.
Yeah, so we're going to zoom through history for just a little bit.
Real fast.
Right, so we ended in you know, Genesis chapter 3 of the fall and banishment and everything, and we went through that story, and we're going to skip some other stuff because we're in the discussion of heaven and earth, and this is the discussion that gets us to that place, because what we're talking about today is God's ultimate rescue plan for us. So here we were, of heaven and earth together in this perfection. And then we decided that we were going to rip that apart. So now no longer is it heaven in earth, or heaven on earth, but it's heaven and earth. Those things are different.
Two separate entities.
Yeah. And so now the rest of the biblical storyline, there's a theme that goes through of like, let's push those things back together. So at the end of time, at the end of Revelation, man, there's this new heaven and new earth. That's Revelation 22. Awesome. But so what is next?
What does Genesis chapter 11 have to do with all that you just said?
Exactly. What is next in the storyline is this, and it's the Tower of Babel. And it's a story that if you've been in the church for a long time, I mean, flannel graphs, all of that fun stuff, but you've got the flood has already happened, and you've got these people. And well, we can just read just a little bit of it really quick. So we're in Genesis chapter 11.
Yep.
Starting at verse 1. I'll just read the first 4 verses. And it says, the whole earth had one language and had the same words. And the people migrated from the east, and they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. Okay. And they said to one another, come, let's make bricks, burn them thoroughly. So here's a new invention, a new forward-thinking idea of we're going to make bricks. We're going to start making cities. We're making civilizations. We're moving forward in this world. And they had bricks for stone and bitumen for mortar. In verse 4, this is the important part. And they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, or some of our versions would say in the skies, to the skies. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. Nice.
Okay, so why a tall tower? Like, I mean, you know, Empire State Building, the Twin Towers. Yeah. Seriously, I'm thinking of all the American ones, whatever the big ones are.
In India, the huge one.
Yeah, whatever. I don't.
Yeah, what's up with the?
Is that what we're talking about? I was like, hey, let's have a contest, see who can build the biggest tower. But I think you get part of the answer. What they say, we want to build it up to the heavens.
Yeah, And, the words, and if you go back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago, was the skies. And so, we can think, oh yeah, if we're building the Empire State Building, man, that's huge.
Yeah.
We're building it up into the heavens, into the skies, because it's, it's taller than anything that had been made in that time. And then you've got, everything that's slowly stacking I think it's the one in India now or Dubai, that's like the tallest one ever.
I think it's Dubai.
It's like Mission Impossible 6 or something is like there or something too. But there's a little bit of clout, there's a little bit of pride, and we have created the tallest man-made structure.
Right.
And that's
part of what's going on here, but there's something deeper than that going on.
That's right. So the word that we talked about 2 weeks ago of heavens and skies we're talking about, this is the place where God dwells. This is the heavenly realm.
Because in ancient times, we had no ability, they couldn't fly. They had no ability to get past whatever hilltop that they can get on the top of, that's as high as they can get, and God's still up there. So
they're looking and saying, that's where God is, and that's what they say right here.
Yeah.
Let's build for ourselves a city and tower that goes to those places.
Yeah.
So not only, we're not going to be stuck here.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I think if we're reading with ancient eyes and we're reading with what, the ancient Israelites would have read this as, is like, they are creating a space where they are going into God's space.
Yeah.
And not just to be in God's presence. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that anymore. They're not, they can't go back to the garden. They can't go back to God's presence. So you know what? If God won't let me have it, I'm going to take it for myself.
Yeah.
And I will go up into the heavens. I will go up into the sky to obtain Godship.
Right. Because then it's like, that's what they say there in verse 4. Let's make a name for ourselves. So as far as we know, the only person up there is God. So let's get up there, not so that we can go, to your point, not so we can go, hey, God, glad to be with you again, like we were back in the garden. That's not the point. Yeah. We want to get up there where God is so that we can be like God.
Yeah. We can call the shots from up here, man.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That Adam and Eve struggled with.
And I think that's kind of part of what the ancient authors really want us to look at. I think they want us to look, and I mean, we talked about this before. They want us to look at the fall narrative and this as this, as similar stories. It's the same story, new chapter, right? It's the same things. And, if you look at those scriptures really closely, they're very, very close and very similar in word and action.
Yeah. So it makes sense why, because when I was a kid hearing the story, I was like, well, God, why doesn't God want people to build tall buildings? That's what was wrong with having a big building?
He's a killjoy. You guys don't get to do it.
I don't want y'all to have big buildings. And then, so are we sinning by building them now? That's not, the point is not the tall structure.
Right.
The point is what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
With it.
Here I am in my prideful arrogance of saying, you know what? This is where I am. And there's nothing wrong with building tall towers, just like you said, but their thing is, and we could do that. You could do the same thing now and saying, I'm going to build the tallest structure because, I have the ability because I'm man. I can do whatever I want.
Look at me.
People will look at me and it'll be called Brandon Tower. And they'll say, dude, that's such a lame name. Brandon Tower. And they'll be able to think, man, Brandon is the one that did this. Brandon is the one that and that's where they are too. And I think Cade said something. He's talking about, could one language be translated as one goal or mindset? I think that's kind of almost inferenced here. Not necessarily
whether it's talking about, I think probably it's talking about literal languages because they all kind of sprang from the same place. But to your point, we are unified in this desire together to be where God is, which makes sense why God created the dispersion, why he confused the languages, and which is what happens next if you continue reading. God sends everybody away. He confuses their languages where they can't understand each other, and then they just kind of spread out across the earth from there. And you and I have talked about this, but there's similar wording as far as the punishment here and the punishment for Adam and Eve. If you go back to chapter 3, I want to read verses 22 and 23. The Lord God said, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand, take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he'd been taken. So here's the problem. They're trying to get up and be like us. We don't want that. So we got to send them away from this temptation, this desire.
Yeah.
Okay. Genesis 11, look at verse 6 through 8. The Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language they began to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. I don't think God's saying boy, they can do all the miracles that I can do. I think he's saying they are wanting to be like me. They're wanting to continue to accomplish and put themselves in the driver's seat. Come, let's go down, confuse their language so that they will not understand each other. So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. What they do from there, they start farming and taking care of animals and all that kind of stuff.
So it's the same thing. God looks down, sees that something has gone wrong, and banishes and
scatters and kicks out.
Yeah. So I think whenever we read this story, there's supposed to be this not just a faint echo, a pretty large echo of like garden. The same thing, new day.
But there's also, I don't want to lose track of our discussion looking at heaven and earth.
Yeah.
There's a desire on these people's part to somehow force themselves into heaven, or to drag, physically, but to drag these two worlds back together by their own power.
Yeah.
If
God won't let me be like with him or be him, then by golly, I will bring heaven here, and I will become
or I will
myself.
Get up there to him and just do it on my own.
Yeah.
What he won't do for me, I'll do for myself.
Yeah. So there's a problem.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the rescue plan, right? We need to be rescued from this because we still do the same thing.
Yeah.
This isn't just a Tower of Babel story. This isn't a garden story. This is our story of, I want to be the God of my own life. I want to be the captain of my own ship.
Yeah.
And these stories, if anything, show like, dude, you're anything but that. And the times that we try and obtain it, the times that we try and say, I'm God here, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, I'm the one that calls the shots, God's like, not today, buddy, friend.
So if we keep going into the next chapter, you start to see God's plan. Okay, they have tried twice now.
Yeah.
And that's not even including the flood and other things, but just specifically with these two stories, they have tried to do something that is not possible for them to do. They are trying to put themselves in a place that I didn't design them for, and never designed this world for. And so we've got to fix this.
Yeah. And what's cool is that it's literally the next chapters.
Right.
Because you've got chapter 11, like, look at this massive failure.
Yeah.
And then the next sentence in verse 10 of chapter 11 is talking about Shem's descendants. So now where we scattered, and now we're walking down a line of people all the way until we get to chapter 12. Well, I guess a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Of where we
into chapter 11, beginning of chapter 12.
Yeah.
We get a guy named Abram.
Yeah. So we've like wide angle lens here. Let's look at all of humanity. And now we are zooming, Google Earth all the way to this particular coordinates.
Here's this one guy.
Here's this guy.
Yeah.
And his name is Abram. And this is the beginning of the rescue plot.
Right. So let's talk about that. But I want to ask one more would you rather question that you can answer while we start talking about Abram. Question is, it's not even would you rather. This is actually just your own personal experience. This is one other question. Have you ever been given either an assignment or a project, maybe at work, or an assignment at school, or a job by your family, your dad when you were a kid, that you felt completely unqualified or unprepared for? Like, just something that you're like, I don't have any business doing this.
There's one summer that I came back. It was my first summer from Harding. Came back and I started working for my dad and his. He's a manager of a big landscaping firm and stuff. And so he put me on an irrigation crew. I was like, I don't know. And I'm working with guys that are telling me about sockets and pipes and sizes and saws and all of that and shovels and stuff. And I'm like, no idea.
Yeah.
So now I know about the average, a little bit more than average of how to do irrigation.
Yeah. I'm the same way. My dad, our family business before I got into ministry was the auction business. My grandpa and then my dad, we had an auction school. I say I was there.
The Browns.
Yeah. Yeah. For 40 something years that I went through, but still, like, I remember, the first auction that I was at after I gone through auction school and got my certificate and everything. And then my dad's selling. Of course, he's still, even though he's retired from it, he's an amazing auctioneer. And he's just going, and then like, all right, come up here. And he hands me the microphone. And I'm looking at this crowd of people, and I'm just like, I just feel completely unprepared for it. And the reason I bring that up, I love for you guys to share. I love to hear the job or whatever that you felt unprepared for. But think about that, because Abram is going to get this kind of assignment. Yeah. And this purpose and this plan from God. And I think sometimes we don't realize how really unqualified he was, by our standards at least, to do this. Mm-hmm. So let's go. We got a few minutes left. Let's go through quickly. Kind of hit the highlights here with Abram.
For sure. So God just comes and chooses. There's like no context. Chapter 12.
He came from Shem. That's about all we know.
And it just says in chapter 12:1, the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred. Verse 2, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to bless you, make your name great, that you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and I will dishonor those who dishonor you. I will honor you. Very important at the end here. And in you and from you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And he basically says, go. In verse 4, Abraham went.
Yeah.
That's the abridged version.
Yes.
But I mean, it all happens very quickly in 4 verses. So what's the plan? Because we said that, here's God's plan. And God goes to a dude named Abram, who is a no-name guy from a no-name family from Shem, and says, I'm going to make you into a great nation, your name great, and through you, I'm going to bless all the families. How was that a plan?
Yeah.
What a strategic plan, God.
Yes.
Choose this dude that has no clout, political prowess, anything at all.
Well, and so let's look at God's plan first off. God's gonna take care of him. Says he's going to make him to a great nation, and he's going to make his name great. Which, if you go back to chapter 11, what did they say they wanted to accomplish? In verse 4 with this tower, we want to get to heaven so that we can what?
For ourselves.
So we can have a name. And God tells Abram, I'm going to give you a name. I'm going to bless you with a great name. Your name is going to be great, but it's not going to be because of you.
Yeah.
It's going to be because of me.
And that's the big distinction.
Right. Which is the whole thing that he wanted for Adam and Eve in the first place. I'm bringing heaven here.
Yeah.
I'm creating this. I'm doing this for you.
You don't have to do.
You ain't got to do anything, man.
I'm the one.
Just don't eat that fruit.
But
other than that, we're good.
Bro.
And then, same thing with the tower. Like, we want to make a name for ourselves. We want to do it. It needs to be our power. The guy's like, nah, not going to make that happen. And then he comes to this one guy, like he said, zooms in on Abram, and he just tells him, okay, you don't have a great name, but I'm going to give you one. That's what I'm going to do for you.
And just to give that, like, that's us too.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you're not important, or maybe you feel like you're the most important person ever. Like, that is not as important as the great name that we have through Jesus Christ.
Right. And God's saying, I'm going to give you value, and I'm going to make your name mean something.
You try and obtain that on your own?
Create a purpose. Yeah. And anytime that I'm trying to simply do that myself, it always feels unfulfilling.
Yeah.
It never feels like it's enough. And God says, I want to do this for you, Abram. I'm going to bless these other. Okay. So I wanted to key in on that part. And then what's this part about the blessing all peoples?
Yeah. And I think that this is the plan. The name is the plan too, because here we are, we're Christians, we're Christ followers. And so we're a part, we're going to get to that later, but we're a part of this plan. The promise that he's making here to Abraham is an echo of the promise that he gave, right? He's the one that is now carrying that promise, no longer Adam and Eve. And so with this, I'm going to bless you and I'm going to make your name great and stuff like that. That's the replaying of all that, but you're going to be a multiplying family. You're going to be fruitful in the land. You're going to have abundance and stuff like that. So he becomes a carrier of those original blessings. And so he is going to be the one that is the carrier that the very, very beginning, this is step one in a multi-step plan of God's strategic plan to reunite heaven and earth. Because through him, every single family of the earth is going to be blessed. That's the Browns, that's the Dodds, that's the Catons, that's the Parks, that's all of us.
Yeah.
Through this one guy.
Yeah.
And so God is saying he's choosing a poster child to say this is somebody that has flaws, and just read through this next couple of chapters of Genesis. The man had flaws. But through those flaws and through those things, not focusing on yourself, if you're focusing on God and letting God act, that's where this great name, this great blessing, your descendants, this abundance of life and stuff that every family is going to be able to experience comes from there.
Right. And to kind of echo what you just said, it's going to be, when Christ comes to the earth, he's bringing God's presence here on earth once again. I know we're going to flesh that out more on down the road, but here's the beginning of the glimpse of that plan. It's like, spoiler alert, there's something big coming. Heaven and earth are going to meet once again.
And
Abraham, you're going to start that, and everybody's going to get to participate in it. But the key thing is to me again is God saying, I'm going to do this for you.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked a minute ago, and I would love for you guys to share about your inadequacies for your jobs, because I think we look sometimes at Abraham, some of these Bible characters, like they automatically felt empowered, to do this job. I mean, if you look at
God
Abraham,
only calls the qualified people,
right? But if you look at Abraham, okay, I'm sure he had some stuff. He had some flocks. He had maybe, I don't know, a little garden out back or something. I mean, it's not like he's destitute, but at the same time, there's nothing really significant about him. Doesn't have a whole lot going on for him. And then God says, you're going to multiply, which is what he asked Adam and Eve to do in the garden.
Which, side note, hilarious. He's old.
Yeah. Okay.
Good plan, God.
Yeah, I'm going to make a great nation out of you. He's in his 70s. His wife's too old to have kids. They haven't had kids at all to this point. They're too old to have them now. And he's got no name.
God's like
currently. And then God's like, okay, so take off walking, and I want to give you a land, and you're going to take care of that land and increase and multiply. And like everything about there's nothing about this that you look at Abram and go, that's the guy.
Yeah.
He's not an explorer. We don't think he's not like, of all people for God to use, it doesn't seem like he would be the guy to use, which is even more, I think points even more to God saying, I'm the one doing this.
Yeah.
You get to participate in this. Like he comes out and
he has ownership in it too.
He comes out and it's not like he's like, Abram, what do you think about this? I've been thinking and I thought I might do this and this. And Abram's like,
this is kind of plan A, but
he just shows up
plan B.
And like, here's what's going to happen. And Abram's like, okay. And just starts walking.
Verse 4, he went.
Yeah. You've moved a couple times in your life. I've moved a couple, but I knew where I was going.
Yeah. And there was a lot of preparation before that.
Right.
And the why was very important. Why
and
are
God
we moving?
basically says, start walking and I'll tell you when you get there.
And he goes.
And if you read the rest of the story of Abraham, he's not the greatest Bible hero. He struggles with lying. He struggles with still trying to put himself into God's shoes and making this plan happen and not waiting for God to do it. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the best parent in the world. His boys don't get along with each other. I mean, there's some flaws. He kind of treats his wife like a piece of property sometimes. And anyway,
a couple of times.
Yeah. But that's who God uses, which bring that back to us to kind of wrap up.
Yeah. And I think, talking about us in all of that, like that's really encouraging for me. Because I think a lot of times we look at the Bible in terms of good guys and bad guys. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that this whole thing is filled with bad guys and one good guy.
Yeah.
Like that's, there's, none of us are good guys in the story. There's only one good guy. And in the narrative of heaven and earth and everything too, and this is what we're going to get to a little bit, he uses a flawed person to bring about part of his plan. And if he can use a guy that has all those flaws we just like that, I think he can use us too.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something he can do with us.
Yeah. There's a guy that I really respect, and his name is he's a Christian poet, and his name is Propaganda. At least that's what he goes by. What a name! But he says that God uses crooked sticks to draw straight lines. Yeah. He's like,
yeah,
I'm a crooked stick.
Yeah.
But my God can use me to draw straight lines.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
so cool. Now we get this glimpse of God's, for the first time since the split in the garden, instead of punishment, which is what it's been so far, drive them out of the garden, the flood, drive them away from this tower. Okay, you guys have tried enough. Just stop it. Yeah. Let me bring heaven back to earth again.
Yeah.
And here's how we're going to do that.
And so next week, what we're going to talk about is God moving into the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's moving in next door.
Literally, yes.
So we're really excited about that because, this is the beginning parts. I know we're running over. This is the beginning parts of God's ultimate plan of the new heaven and new earth found at the last pages of the Bible.
Yeah.
And this is it, starting with this one flawed man named Abraham.
Yeah. Cool. So it's going to be good. Come back next Thursday. Join us again. We're going to delve into this even more.
Cool. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for the time.
We'll catch up with you later.
Okay. See ya.